In this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy an application to a Google Compute Engine VM in the form of a container. When we deploy our containers on Compute Engine, we get to manage the VMs that's running the containers. We can create managed instance groups that run these containers. We can perform actions on all these managed instance groups at one time. And we can use the command line or Google Engine API to manage our VMs within the container. So in this video, we're going to use the console to deploy a container on a new VM instance. So once you're in the Google Cloud Console, you can come up under the search bar. You can type in Compute Engine, and you'll get a product page, Compute Engine. Go ahead and click that Compute Engine link, and that'll bring you into the Compute Engine console page. So once you're in the Compute Engine, if you've never used it, you're going to have to enable the API. So go ahead and click Enable. If you've already used it, you will be brought right to the Compute Engine console, which we'll see here very shortly. It only takes a quick minute to enable an API. So now it brings you right into the console. So the first thing we want to do is create an instance. So let's go ahead and click Create Instance. And from here, we have to deploy a container on this new VM instance. So for name, I'm just going to call it Nginx instance, and we're going to deploy an Nginx web server via containerized image to this VM. For my region, US Central 1 is fine, US Central 1A. So you'll notice that these regions are permanent, and so is the zone. So when you choose them, ensure you're choosing the right ones. Machine configuration, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to go with an E2 small. You'll notice that it can cost upwards of about $13 a month. So if that's something that you want to avoid, make sure you get rid of this VM instance as soon as we're done the demo. We can come down a little bit, and the section we want to see is container. So we want to deploy a container image to this VM instance. So I'm going to go ahead and select deploy container. We get an additional pop-up, and from here we configure our container. So we need an image. We said we were going to use Nginx. So for a container image, let's paste in dcr.io/marketplace/Google/Nginx1 with a tag of latest. Our restart policy is always. It can be on failure, or that can be set to never. So this restart policy really specifies whether to restart a container upon exit. The default is always, and we're going to leave it on default. Here we can run it as privileged, allocate a buffer for stdin, or allocate a sudo tty. We can leave all that same. We don't have to select any of it. Here, any commands we want to run on that container, we can specify any arguments, any variables. We just have a container image with a restart policy of always. Go ahead and click select. Now you can see under container, all your settings are here. And this could be any container. This could be a container that you created that has an image that has everything your application needs to run. We go down, boot disk, everything here is fine, your service account. You can also get an equivalent command line. I think it's worth noting if you select equivalent command line, you get a full command to create what you're doing here. So if you wanted to run this in an infrastructure as code scenario, then you can copy this in your clipboard. You could run it in the shell or what. So I'm going to go ahead and click close, and I'm going to go ahead and click create. So now I'm creating that VM instance with an Nginx container. And we'll give it a few minutes to fire up, and then we can take a quick look at it. So now you can see our instance is up. You get the green checkbox for status. The instance is running. Go ahead and click the name, and it gives you a little bit more information about our instance, and we know what it is because we set it up ourselves. So we want to get that public IP just to test and make sure that Nginx is actually running as we want it to. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy my external IP address, and I'm going to put it in a browser window. When I paste it in, you see I get a welcome to Nginx page. Tells me the web server is successfully installed. So let's go back into our VM console. And from here, we can see container, and it shows us our container image. There's also advanced container options here as well. And if we want to change any of these settings, we can come up and click edit. And in the console itself, it allows us to make some changes to that container section of our VM. So if we come down, we can go ahead and click change, right? We can say run as privileged. We can allocate a buffer. So all the things we didn't turn on in the beginning, we can actually go back and edit it after the fact. So I'll go ahead and click cancel. Come back to VM instances now. Let's do a little bit of cleanup. Let's come into VM instances. Let's check our VM instance. And if you don't want to use it anymore, let's come up and select delete and delete our instance. So I hope this video showed you how to deploy applications to the compute engine using containers in the Google Cloud Platform.